The camera opens on the White House briefing room. The seal of the president gleams under the lights. Cameras click, reporters shuffle, and then there he is, Donald Trump, standing behind the lectern with that familiar confidence. This isn't just another press conference. It's a moment that stirs headlines across the sporting world and beyond. Trump begins, pausing for effect before delivering a line that immediately dominates every news cycle. Would we think about taking the World Cup away from Boston if they don't straighten it out? The answer is yes. The remark sends a jolt through the room. Reporters glance at one another. Did the US president just threaten to move World Cup matches from one of America's oldest and most politically liberal cities? In his signature tone, Trump continues, asserting that the administration has the right to do that with FIFA. He draws a line connecting sports, politics, and governance, one that few world leaders dare to touch. If we think there's any reason, whether it's Boston or anywhere else, that they're not doing their job, he says, we're going to take those World Cup games and move them someplace else. What began as a statement about logistics quickly turns into a message about loyalty and performance, political and civic. For Trump, hosting the 2026 World Cup isn't merely a sporting event. It's a demonstration of America's greatness under his leadership. But beneath the words, there's something deeper, a warning to cities governed by Democrats that political opposition may have real-world consequences. As he speaks, the room remains tense. To his right, FBI Director Kash Patel listens intently. Attorney General Pam Bondi stands beside him, nodding occasionally. The scene, partly procedural, partly political theatre, captures the tone of a presidency defined by confrontation and performance. Then, with a shift in topic that only Trump could deliver, he pivots to another symbol of America's decline and potential revival, San Francisco. Once one of America's most admired cities, it has, in Trump's words, become a mess. But he doesn't dismiss it entirely. In fact, he extends what sounds like a political olive branch. I'd like to recommend San Francisco for inclusion, maybe in your next group, he says, referring to the World Cup venues. It's a mix of critique and showmanship, classic Trump rhetoric that turns even civic frustration into a pitch for resurgence. But this press conference is not just about sports or cities. It's about power and who gets to wield it. Trump moves on to the topic of federal spending, declaring, "We have the people that we want paid, and we want the FBI paid, we want the military paid." His tone hardens. The Democrats, he adds, they don't talk about this. We're getting rid of programs that we didn't like, but that were negotiated in. We're terminating those programs on a permanent basis. Thousands of people, billions of dollars. The words underline a broader political philosophy: reward loyalty, eliminate waste, and punish inefficiency, all under the banner of fiscal discipline. But critics see something else, a deliberate politicization of public funding, where financial decisions blur into political retribution. Outside the White House, reaction spreads fast. In Boston, city officials expressed disbelief. The 2026 World Cup is meant to be a moment of civic pride, a global event expected to bring in millions in revenue, international exposure, and community excitement. Local organisers who've spent years coordinating logistics with FIFA and US soccer suddenly find themselves facing an unprecedented threat that the Games could be moved by presidential decree. FIFA itself remains cautious. The international football body, usually protective of its autonomy, issues no immediate comment. But experts in sports law quickly point out that while host cities are agreed upon in partnership with national federations, political pressure can indeed influence venue decisions. For Boston, this isn't just about football. It's about political identity. The city, a Democratic stronghold and frequent target of Trump's criticism, finds itself once again at the center of a presidential storm. Residents recall past clashes over immigration, sanctuary city policies, and the handling of protests, and see this as part of a pattern. But Trump's supporters view it differently. They see a leader holding cities accountable, demanding efficiency, and refusing to reward what he calls bad management. In their eyes, the World Cup isn't a gift, and it's a privilege to be earned. Back in Washington, the president's remarks ripple through corridors of power. Reporters question whether the White House has consulted FIFA or if this was an off-the-cuff comment meant to rattle local officials. But Trump's team seems unfazed. For them, the statement plays directly into the president's political strategy to frame himself as the ultimate decision-maker in sports, in governance, in culture. As the press conference continues, the tone oscillates between policy and performance. Trump, flanked by senior aides, listens to questions from journalists, occasionally leaning forward, adjusting his papers, or gesturing toward the crowd. The reporters press him on whether this threat applies to other cities, Los Angeles, New York, or Philadelphia, all of which are slated to host games. Trump smiles, offering no direct answer, leaving the speculation alive and the headlines flowing. Beyond the Beltway, reactions from sports fans are mixed. Some dismiss the comments as political theatre. Others worry that such uncertainty could disrupt preparations for what's supposed to be one of the biggest sporting spectacles in American history. The 2026 World Cup is already being framed as a continental event shared between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, a celebration of cooperation across borders. Yet here stands the US president injecting unpredictability into a process that thrives on stability. As the hours pass, the clip of Trump's remarks spreads across television networks, social media platforms, and sports newsrooms. The quote, "Would we think about taking the World Cup away from Boston?" The answer is yes, becomes the headline of the day. In Boston, Mayor Michelle Wu's office releases a brief but firm statement defending the city's preparations and calling for unity. Boston is proud to host the World, it reads. Our commitment to FIFA and to the people of Massachusetts remains strong. Behind the diplomatic phrasing, the tension is unmistakable. Political analysts note how this moment fits into Trump's broader narrative, a presidency built on confrontation with democratic cities and institutions. From pandemic management to law enforcement funding, Trump has repeatedly positioned himself as the arbiter of who deserves support and who does not. The World Cup now becomes another stage for that same performance. Meanwhile, in the sporting world, FIFA insiders begin quiet conversations. Could the US administration genuinely influence venue allocation? What would happen if a sitting president publicly opposed a host city? These are questions without easy answers, but ones that could have implications far beyond Boston. In the following days, talk shows, op-eds, and international media outlets pick up the story. Some treat it as a symbolic warning, others see it as an attempt to politicize sport, a space often viewed as neutral ground. Yet Trump's statement resonates with a certain part of the electorate, those who believe that sports, like politics, should reflect strength, control, and national pride. The president's reference to San Francisco, one of our great cities, now a mess, amplifies his point. It's both a critique and a call to action, hinting that the administration could use the allocation of major events to reward improvement or punish perceived decline. As the White House lights fade and the press conference ends, reporters file their stories, but the conversation doesn't end there. Across newsrooms and stadium offices, Trump's remarks are dissected, debated, and replayed. The statement, brief as it was, encapsulates a wider truth about his leadership. Every platform, from the world stage to the sports field, is fair game for political messaging. In the months ahead, the controversy will likely grow. Preparations for the 2026 World Cup continue, but the question lingers. Could presidential influence actually shift a FIFA venue? And what precedent would that set for future administrations? For now, Boston waits. Its streets buzz with both pride and apprehension, knowing that its World Cup fate may rest not with FIFA's executive committee, but with the political winds of Washington.
Beautifully says, you saved millions of lives. He told that to a group of people right in this office. He said,
we got her in 2 months. This includes a narco trafficker. This includes a sex trafficker.
Their jobs, and you let cops be cops. That's why all this is happening. For what we're doing in Memphis, you're going to hear a lot more about that, our joint task force next.
we could have that done in a month if we had their cooperation. It's going to be done anyway.
Some mandates, so I know the American people thank you for that. In terms of the guns that have been taken off the street.
They're world-class speedboats, but they're not faster than missiles. But we've been, well, they should. I'm surprised it takes so long. You know, we're talking about violent crime. What about, he said, would we think about taking the World Cup away from Boston if they don't straighten it out? And the answer is yes. We have the right to do that with FIFA. So if we think that LA is going to be bad, or we think that applies a little bit to the Olympics too, but we'll talk about FIFA first. You know, FIFA is very hot. If we think there's any reason that, whether it's Boston or anywhere else, that they're not doing their job, we're going to take those World Cup games and move them someplace else.
Thank you. And then Director Patel, there's been so many.
San Francisco. I think we can make San Francisco. There's one of our great cities 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now it's a mess. And we have great support in San Francisco, so I'd like to recommend that for inclusion, maybe in your next group. You'll get great support. Every American deserves. We got the people that we want paid, okay? And we want the FBI paid, we want the military paid. We got the people that we want paid. And I'll tell you, the Democrats, they don't talk about this. You know, we're getting rid of programs that we didn't like, but that were negotiated in, but we didn't like. We're terminating those programs, and they're going to be terminated on a permanent basis. And it's thousands of people, and it's billions of dollars. We're getting rid of a lot of things that we never wanted because of the fact that they made this stupid move.